What's up, Taiwan? Good evening. I'm Ethan Liu with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's government is stepping in to help the country's nurses who say they're inundated with COVID patients and are feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. The health minister is promising to limit the number of patients that nurses have to look after. But nurses are skeptical about whether the new measures will be enforced. Our reporter John Van Trist has more.
Taiwan's nurses are under pressure amid the country's worst COVID wave. Now, the government is stepping in. After talks with unions on Wednesday, it set a limit of 7 COVID patients per nurse. That's higher than its original 5 patients per nurse policy. But it is a step back from the 9 to 15 patients nurses at some hospitals have been facing. Officials are also giving nurses per-patient bonuses. They're even trying to get qualified nursing assistants to help out with promises of money. The tone from the government has been conciliatory.
现在好像有一些相关的意见，那我想我秉持的最大的诚意，那听取大家的意见，那能够共谋解决之道，那最好。
Nurses' unions, though, aren't happy. They wonder how the government will enforce its cap. And they say offers of extra money miss the point.
多一个病人多2000块不是我们的诉求，也不是我们要的目的。我们要的是人员能够好好休息。
Making matters worse is the fact that up to 10% of nurses in northern Taiwan alone can't work because they have COVID too. The result could be a nursing shortage as frustrated nurses quit and aspiring nurses change their minds about the profession.
一定会有人离职啊！我们也很担心的这一波我们说早期可能都是一个使命嘛，休听呐但是呢，挺到久的时候也会累嘛，应届毕业生可能还不太想进来。
If things don't improve, COVID-19 could cast a shadow over Taiwan's medical system long after the pandemic itself ends. Klein Wang and John Van Trist for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan reported 104 COVID-19 deaths on Thursday. It was the first time that the number broke 100. Reporter Rick Lauer spoke to Taipei-based biologist Chase Nelson about the rising COVID cases and the deaths in Taiwan. He began by asking what the numbers say about the country's biggest outbreak to date.
Epidemiologists in Taiwan have projected that anywhere from as early as next week to maybe sometime in July, the cases will peak. So it's really impossible to know. However, deaths are coming up now. And in fact, deaths, the counting of them, lags about 2 to 4 weeks behind the counting of cases because it takes time for someone to test and worsen and hospitalize. And so what everyone should be aware of is that the deaths are lagging behind the cases. And what we should be doing, in my view, is to really continue to take precautions so we keep cases down. And the reason for that is to help our healthcare workers who are easily going to be overwhelmed within the coming weeks.
What evidence are you seeing that Taiwanese people are adjusting their behaviors in light of this most recent outbreak?
This is a very encouraging topic because by and large, it appears from Google mobility data that Taiwanese residents have largely taken matters into their own hands when it comes to restricting their activities and limiting viral spread. So transit station mobility, buses, subways, look to be down by about 50%. And things like parks and recreation and retail are down by about 1/3. So I think people have been really responsible to take matters into their own hands despite the lack of additional restrictions from the government. And no doubt that is part of the reason, not the whole reason, but part of the reason why cases have not spiked as quickly as I and some others feared.
China's foreign minister has arrived in the Solomon Islands 1 month after signing a security pact with the country that drew the ire of the U.S., Australia, and New Zealand. Wang Yi's visit is part of a 10-day trip that will take in 8 Pacific nations. He's set to sign a number of bilateral agreements with the Solomons, including the controversial security agreement. There are fears that the deal could allow China to establish a military base in the islands. The Solomon Islands cut diplomatic ties with Taiwan in 2019. Taipei says it's closely observing China's actions in the Pacific region.
中国在世界各地推动“一带一路”政策多年，已经导致像斯里兰卡等国的深陷在债务陷阱。 经济社会发展也出现重大危机。近期中国政府的军事战略扩张的野心呢，也已经造成太平洋区域的紧张局势升高。中国与所罗门群岛签署的安全合作架构协定呢，就是一个明显的例子。
Taiwanese lawmaker Freddie Lim is heading to an international forum to speak out against Chinese authoritarianism. The independent legislator will speak at the Copenhagen Democracy Summit alongside lawmakers from Germany, Uganda, and India. He will be the first member of Taiwan's legislature to speak at the event, although several other lawmakers from across the political spectrum will attend this year's summit. At the event last year, President Taiwan delivered an online keynote speech urging democracies to stand together in the face of authoritarianism. 2 Taiwanese freedivers have been allowed to compete in an international competition under the name Taiwan, but only after staging a protest. Huang Mingjun and Lian Linglan refused to compete in the Caribbean Cup taking place in Honduras after they found their country name had been changed from Taiwan to Chinese Taipei, Taiwan. It was later changed back to Taiwan after discussions with event organizers. Taiwanese athletes are required to compete under the name Chinese Taipei at most major sporting events. That's because China claims Taiwan as part of its territory and refuses Taiwan and a symbol of its own sovereignty. In October last year, the International Freediving Association apologized to Taiwan for removing the country's flag from the live broadcast. It's hard finding good quality Taiwanese food ingredients in the United States. In some parts of the U.S., people have to drive for hours just to find a store that sells them. But a small team of Taiwanese Americans is on a mission to change that and promote Taiwanese culture at the same time. Bing Wang has more.
Taiwanese ingredients like this soy sauce, handmade by the Shea family in central Taiwan, are difficult to find in the United States. But Taiwanese American entrepreneurs Lisa Cheng Smith and Lillian Lin are working to make such products more accessible. In 2019, the friends set up Yunhai Pantry, an online shop selling premium Taiwanese food products in the U.S.
But the ones that we carry are smaller, made in smaller batches, so that allows some of the vendors to maybe put more care and thought into the products that they make. So for example, in the soy sauce, every bottle is like a baby for them, and that allows it to have maybe a more complex flavor profile.
Food is a big aspect of Taiwanese culture, one that is often conflated in the U.S. with being from China. There are over 5 million Chinese Americans, and since there's no box to check on the U.S. Census for Taiwanese Americans, it's difficult to find an official figure for that community. But through its products, Yunhai Pantry is working to raise awareness in the U.S. of a distinct Taiwanese culture.
In the U.S., we're creating like the identity for, a runway for the identity of Taiwanese lifestyle products. People have been associating with China for so long, and only now is okay, there's a different identity for Taiwanese lifestyle products.
And vital to these projects are the stories of the people who make them. The team behind Yunhai worked closely with Taiwan's small farmers, even launching a fundraising campaign for them last year when they suffered losses over a ban imposed on their products by China.
It's very much about trying to invest in, Taiwanese agriculture and to work with agriculturalists who, care about what they're doing and are trying to do things. I mean, the right way will be different for everyone, but, who have a set of values and are, working on, developing agriculture in Taiwan in a good direction.
All their efforts will soon culminate into a physical store in New York City. The Yunhai team hoped for Taiwanese Americans to get a taste of home and for others in the U.S. to better understand the culture of Taiwan. Kama Xu and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, today we leave you with images of cheerful clowns in the streets of Lima celebrating Peru's traditional Clown Day. I'm Ethan Liu. Take care, and I'll see you next time.